All right, everybody, welcome to the video here for lesson number 2. So we're talking about the standard form of the equation of a circle. And the first couple questions have us just finding the equation of a circle in center radius form. So to do that, first thing we have to do is move the number that does not have a variable. So we'll start by adding 10 here and moving our terms together. So in class, remember I highlighted them. It's like the x's are going to go together and the y's are going to go together. So I'm going to have x squared plus 4x plus y squared plus 2y equals 10. And if we go from there, we then have to figure out the numbers to add in here to complete the square. So the number that I'm going to add in for the x's is 4, because half of 4 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. That's where that number comes from. The number I'm going to add in for the y's is 1, because half of 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1. Meaning I'm going to add 4, and I'm going to add 1 to the other side as well. Now the next thing I have to do is factor. So I have to factor x squared plus 4x plus 4, which becomes x plus 2 and x plus 2. Should always be the same number twice, if not we mess something up. Same thing for the y's. I'm going to get y plus 1 and y plus 1. Again, same thing twice, and that's all equal to 15. If I do some quick algebra, I know that the two terms multiplied by themselves can just be written as the term squared. And I have my answer in the correct form. This tells us that we have a center of -2, -1, and a radius of the square root of 15. Part B is the same kind of question, just different numbers. So start by subtracting 2. Combine your x terms together, which they already were, which is nice, and the y terms together. And then we have to start thinking about how to complete the square. So half of 8 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. So I have 8x plus 16. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to put plus 9. So then I'll add 16 and add 9. So then if I go through and complete the square, I have x plus 4 after factoring. I have y minus 3 and y minus 3 after factoring, and this becomes 23. Rewrite these as their terms squared. And then we know the center is -4, 3. And the radius is the square root of 23. Next one, same idea again. So I have my x terms. Half of 8 is 4, so that's going to be 4 squared, so 16. My y terms, half of 12 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Move the 20 to the other side. So I have 20 plus 16 plus 36. I know I'm going through this one a little bit quicker, but we've just done a couple, so try and follow the steps. To factor that, it's going to be x minus 4, so x minus 4 squared. Minus 6, so I have y minus 6 squared. And if I do some quick addition here, 16 plus 36 plus 20 is 72. So the center is going to be 4, 6. The radius is the square root of 72, which breaks down to 36 times 2, or 6 square root of 2. So remember, we want to try and simplify all those. Last one, first thing I notice is everything here has a factor of 5. So I could go through and divide everything by 5, which gives me x squared plus y squared plus 4x plus 3y minus 2 equals 0. And then I can go through and try and do everything from there. So if I move my terms together, I have x squared plus 4x plus 4, because half of 4 is 2, 2 squared is 4, plus y squared plus 3y Now to do this one, I have to do half of 3, which is 1.5, and then do 1.5 squared, which is 2.25. Equals 2 plus 4 plus 2.25. So then when I factor this, I'm going to have x plus 2, which is x plus 2 squared. Now to factor this next one is kind of hard. So you have to remember that we used 1.5. So I'm going to have 1.5 times itself is 2.25, and added to itself is 3. Then if we do 2 plus 4 plus 2.25, I get 8.25, meaning my center is -2, -1.5, and my radius is the square root of 8.25, which I'm not going to try and simplify. I'll just leave as is. This one would probably be as hard as you'll ever see. The next one gives you Kevin and his nice math work here to try and figure out where Kevin's mistake was. So the first thing Kevin did here was he distributed the negative, which is correct. So that first step is good. After he did that, he then took half of 4 and squared it and got plus 4.
Your wish came true.
All right, so we see that step 1, Kevin did a good job there. In step 2, he added 4 here, but then subtracted 4 on the other side. Well, that doesn't balance the equation, right? So there's his mistake. Everything he did past that is actually correct, so step 2 is where his mistake is. All right, so since step 2 is where his mistake is, let's correct his mistake. So if we look at Kevin's step 2, if I just rewrite x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals -y squared plus 20 plus 4, I can then go from there. So I can multiply this out or factor this out. It becomes x plus 2 squared because that's what they did above. I can move the y squared to the other side and be equal to 24. That is now in center radius form, so the center is going to be -2, 0, and the radius is going to be the square root of 24, which becomes 4 times 6, which becomes 2 square roots of 6. The last question you had here is about this guy named Tito. And Tito has this question, and he thinks that the center and the diameter here are correct. There are 2 ways of doing this question. You can either take this form and put it in center radius form, or write center radius form with this center and this diameter and go from there. All right. So let's do some math. So I'm going to complete the square since it's already set up for us. So I have x squared minus 8x plus 16, because half of 8 is 4, 4 squared is 16. Y squared plus 2y plus 1, because half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1. 5 plus 16 plus 1 onto the other side. Then do some factoring. So I have x minus 4 squared. I have y plus 1 squared. And this is all equal to 22. Now, notice the center is good. The diameter of 5 is a little bit off because the radius is 22 underneath the square root, which is approximately 4.7. So the diameter is approximately 4.7 times 2, or 9.4. So Tito's wrong because the diameter is not 5. It's actually 2 square root of 22s, or 9.4-ish. Hopefully this video helped. Make sure that you're completing the Regents Review assignment on Google Classroom.